Alex has now completed the calculations and pulled through the additional values that he needs. He's now ready to start constructing the dashboard in earnest. And in this video, we're going to look at some tips and tricks for working with graphical elements in our dashboards. To begin with, we have the values we need in these shapes, but when we add a value to a shape, it will pick up the formatting from the cell we select. And rather than going and manually formatting each of these cells, we're going to use our Format Painter. So I'm going to click on the correctly formatted cell, double-click my Format Painter, and this will allow me to apply multiple paints. And when I'm finished, I just click it off. So nice and quick. Now, as we said in the previous video, you very often will need to see some sort of comparison in your dashboard. So this value is fine, but is that above or below my target? So as well as the actual values, we've also pulled through the targets. And now we want some graphical way of illustrating if we are above or below that target. And a very good way of doing this is conditional formatting. In the speech bubbles over here, you can see we have added a little star rating where if they have achieved their target, they get a full yellow star. If they are not quite on target but above the subpar, they get half a star, and if they're below, they get no star. And this was done with conditional formatting. Now we want to do something similar here, but we want to see a little green up arrow if they are on or above target, and we want to see a little red down arrow if they're not. Now, of course, we want our conditional formatting to be highly responsive to change. So we're not going to hard code the values. Instead, we're going to do some little calculations over here and then use those to base our conditional formatting on. So let's start with our time to answer. We need a little calculation that will check if we have met the target or not. And I'm just going to use a simple if for this. So I'm going to say if our actual answer time is less than or equal to the target answer time, then I have achieved the target. Otherwise, I haven't. And I'm just going to use a 1 and a 0. Now, the next one is our resolve rate. And actually, we want that to be on or above the target value. So this is slightly the opposite. We're going to say if this value is greater than or equal to our 65%, then we get a 1, otherwise a 0. Now, service level is much like resolve rate, so we can just copy that down. And our abandon rate is like our answer rate, so we can just copy that formula and paste it over here. And from just a quick glance, you can see that we are on target for 2 of them, but below par for the others. Now we're going to go and put those values that we've calculated into these cells. So I'm just going to type equals and click on my first value. And then I'm going to do the same over here. Okay, so we've got the calculations, but now we need to replace those with conditional formats. So I'm going to click on to the first one, and I'm going to come up to conditional formatting, but I'm going to come directly to new rule so I get complete control over how this works. And I'm not looking for a 2-color scale, I'm actually looking for an icon. Now the icon sets available are pretty good, but if you want total control, you can actually create your own custom icon. So that's what we're going to do. Instead of the green circle, we're going to have a green up arrow. And instead of the yellow circle, we're going to have a red down arrow. And in the unlikely event of it being negative, we're going to have a yellow negative. Now I'm going to adjust these to match the actual values I'm expecting to see. And I'm not working with percentages in this case. I'm actually working with numbers. And I want to say if it's greater than or equal to 1, they're going to get the green arrow. Otherwise, they're going to get the red, and they'll only get the yellow if it's negative. Now, very important, remember to tick the show icon only, which means you won't actually see the calculated value. And then we're going to say, okay, just center align that, job done. And now we can actually copy that formatting using our Format Painter again. Double click my Format Painter, and then just go and apply it to the other cells that require a metric. there you go, a nice, clear visual indicator using conditional formatting. Now, one of the main tools we're going to use in constructing our dashboards is charts. Charts are great because they present a lot of information in a clear visual way. So coming back to our calculation sheet, Alex has already created a chart to show customer satisfaction ratings by agent. But again, we want to see some measure of whether they're achieving what they need to. And so we want to show their targets in this as well, but we want to show it as a target line. So the first thing we're going to do is, scrolling down slightly, you'll see here's the data for my chart. I'm just going to grab that bottom left corner and drag it across to include the target. But I don't want the target to show as a bar, so I'm going to select that series, come up to my design, click Change Chart Type, and then I'm going to make this a line chart. If you're working with an older version, this might look slightly different, but it will do the same thing. So just select line chart if you don't get exactly this dialog. And now we're going to click OK. The solid line, however, looks a little weird. So we'd actually like to make this a dashed line. So I'm going to right click on my series and I'm going to click Format Data Series. I'm then going to come to the formatting options and, if necessary, expand line. If you come down a little bit, you'll see there's an option to add a dash type, and I'm just going to go for the little dashes, and that's looking a little bit more like a target line now. Now, a few other things we'll probably want to do. We're actually going to remove those grid lines, so just click on any one of them and press delete is a nice quick way. And if you have a legend, you'll probably want to remove that as well. This axis also needs to go from 0 to 5, and I want it going up in units of 1. So I'm going to come across to my Format Axis options. And although this does say 0, it may change if the values change. So we're going to actually fix that at 0. And we're going to change our maximum to 5. And we're going to change our major units to 1. And by doing this, even if our values change, we have locked those values in place. And then, so that our title is not so far above the chart, we're also going to come to Chart Title, and we're going to go for a centered overlay. And this just reduces the amount of space that the title takes up. We're now ready to copy that chart and paste it into our dashboard. So Control-C, come back to our dashboard, click somewhere near where you want it to go, and Control-V. Now we can immediately see there are a couple of problems. The white fill is not working. So we're going to come up to our Format tool and we're going to choose No Outline and No Fill. And now we're going to change our font to be white. So just back on the Home tab, change the font to white, and that's looking pretty good. And now you can resize it if you need to. We just need to squish it up a tiny bit. Excellent. One last little feature we're going to look at, and this is Excel's camera tool. It's not available in the ribbon, and so you may not have encountered it before, but it's really handy for creating dashboards. Now, I have added it to my quick access toolbar. Just a reminder, to do this, you'll need to click the drop down, click More Commands. You won't find it in popular commands, so go for commands not in the ribbon, locate the camera tool, and add it to your quick access. Right, now coming back to our calculation sheet, another thing that Alex has done is to give an idea of the trend in satisfaction reviews. He has created a spark line for each of our agents. Now we want to be careful putting spark lines in our dashboards because they can make it look a little bit busy. But spark lines are great for representing a lot of data in a small space, and we really need this information. The problem is spark lines sit in a cell, which means I won't get the flexibility to position it wherever I want it. And that's where the camera tool comes in. So to use the camera tool, select the cells that you actually want to get a picture of. Then come up to your camera tool and click on it. You'll see that dashed line appears. It kind of indicates that something's been copied. The next step is to go to where we want to paste it. So I'm going to come back to my dash and click somewhere near where I want it to go. Now, if I click away for a moment, you'll see the camera tool puts this border around it that can easily be removed. Just come up to Picture Tools and click Reset Picture. And now if I tuck this in here, and maybe move it down a little bit, you can resize it or do whatever you need to do with it. But unfortunately, because of the width of my cell, it is now covering part of my chart. So one more little adjustment. I'm going to come to the send backwards, and I'm just going to send that to the back. I'll maybe just move my chart up a tiny little bit. And our dashboard is now really starting to take shape. So we've seen a quick introduction to working with charts, but in the next video, we're going to get really creative. So keep watching.